Today is very exciting because we're going to be talking about all 15 books I read in April and if you should read them too. Let me just grab, this is like actually crazy. I don't even know if I can hold them all. This is so many books. April was my month of romance, if you can't already tell. So I read 7 contemporary romance books in April. I read 7 cowboy romances in April, which if you don't know what a cowboy romance is, that changed my life, legit, and we'll get into it. And then I read a YA romance. Lots of romance, but these are also great summer recs because in the summer months and when it's getting warmer outside, I just want like a fun, light romance, and that's what all of these books essentially are, and we're gonna be diving deeper into each of them, so let's just get into it. I just have to address the elephant in the room, and that elephant is, yes, cowboy romances. How did I not know this subgenre of romance existed sooner? And when I tell you it legit changed my life, I am being 100% serious that these books right here, they all changed my life for the better. So we have 2 different cowboy romance series that I'm going to be talking about. The first one is the Rebel Blue Branch, oh my gosh, let's try that again. Rebel Blue Ranch series by Lyla Sage, and there are currently 2 books in this series out. The 3rd one comes out in November, which I'm ready for it. So the first book is Done and Dusted, and this is, I believe, Lyla Sage's debut. So we're following Clementine Emmy Ryder, who is back in her small Wyoming hometown after 10 years on the barrel racing circuit. Luke Brooks is her older brother's best friend. So that is a trope. You're getting a sibling best friend trope in this book. And this was actually the first cowboy romance I read, and I became obsessed with them because of this book. I loved the vibes. I loved the farm vibes, the ranch vibes, the horses, the cows, just the small town vibes, the family. They all kind of live close together. You getting like family meals and the family dynamic. It's so enjoyable. So I gave this book a 4.5 stars. I just loved it so much. It didn't have that, again, je ne sais quoi that a 5-star book has for me, but I do still thoroughly love this book. I'm just not itching to reread it right away, which is kind of what inclines me to when a book is going to be 5 stars. So yeah, but this was insanely good. 4.5 stars. Love this book. I'm sure you've seen it other places, but it is so worth the hype. Get into cowboy romances now, you guys. Now. So the next book I'm going to be talking about is the second book in the Rebel Blue Ranch. Oh my gosh, why can't I say ranch? Rebel Blue Ranch series, which is Swift and Saddled by Lyla Sage. And this is such a short, sweet read, you guys. Like, it's less than 300 pages. It did not take me long at all. And so we're following Wes, which is Emmy's older brother, and he is not going to be inheriting the ranch, but he's kind of figuring out his own thing, and he's running this project of creating a guest house on the ranch property, and Ada is the interior designer. So we follow them throughout the book. I really enjoyed Ada's perspective, and we really got to see her grow and bloom in this new environment because she's not from the town that this book is set in. She comes from out of town. She kind of has some trauma from past relationships, and we get to see her work with that. What I do wish we got more of was Wes' perspective. He does have anxiety and depression in this book, but we don't really dive deeper into that, and I really wish we would have. But yeah, that's my only like complaint about this book. Other than that, it is top tier cowboy romance. You're getting all the same things. The small town, the family, the ranch, those vibes. It's very good. And you're also getting some like interior design element, which I actually really enjoyed as well. I gave this book a 4 stars. I didn't like it as much as the first book, but I still really enjoyed it. And again, the 3rd book comes out in November, so gear up, get saddled. I'm ready for it, for real. Okay, and you guys, I'm like geeking out just thinking about it. That's how happy these books make me. And that is the Chestnut Spring series by Elsie Silver. I thought the Rebel Blue Ranch series was good. Yes, it's good. It's good. I was right. But this, a whole nother level. Shocked, speechless, wrecked, destroyed, reborn. Yeah, this is the Chestnut Spring series where every main character in this book is a part of the Wishing Well Ranch farm. So there's 3 brothers and then kind of an adopted brother, and we just follow them and their story. So let's dive into it. So the first book is Flawless, and I gave this 4 stars, and this was, again, really fell in love with cowboy romances. So we're following Rhett, who is a world champion bull rider, and his agent's daughter, Summer, who is assigned to babysit him because Rhett isn't very popular in the press. So they spend time together out at the ranch, and again, just all those good vibes that we're getting in cowboy romances are in this book, and it's amazing. And I feel like this is one of the books that I also really fell in love with Elsie Silver's writing. It just really encapsulates you, and her dialogue is amazing. It's not like telling you what they did. She's very good at describing what the characters are doing and her surroundings without just like telling you, and it flows so freely. It's so easy to get sucked into her books, and she did a great job with this one. Would recommend. So after I read this, I immediately had to pick up the rest of the series, so we're gonna dive deeper into each of them. The next book of this series is Heartless, and you're following Cade and Willa. Cade is the oldest brother on the ranch, and he kind of runs things, and then Willa is Summer's best friend from the first book, and I really love this book more, and I keep thinking about it, and I really want to reread it, so I think that means that it's gonna get a higher rating than I gave it in my reading cowboy romances video. And I think I need to bump this up to a 5 stars, you guys, because I cannot stop thinking about this book. It was really, really good. Yeah, so we get to follow Cade, and he's kind of like a grumpy dad. This is like a dad trope, and he needs help around the house. So Summer hooks him up with Willa, and you know, they just kind of fall into it. It's really fun watching his character grow and watching Willa grow. She's kind of like a free spirit and doesn't really know what she wants to do with her life, but she figures it out in this book, and I'm really happy with the way it went because this is great. 5 stars. The next book was Powerless, and dare I say, do I like this one more than Heartless? I don't know. The first time I read this, after reading Heartless, I was kind of like, ooh, I really, really like this one, but I think it's gonna be a 4.75. I'm not itching to reread it, but I am thoroughly in love with this book. We're following Jasper, who is the adopted brother of the family. So when they were growing up, Jasper was homeless, and one of the siblings took him in, and he's basically like an honorary sibling. And Sloane is the female main character, and she is actually like a cousin of the family, so they're not blood related, but it's a joke. Anyway, so we're following those two characters. I feel like this is where we really dive deep into the trauma, because Jasper had a lot of trauma growing up, Sloane did as well, so we really get to see them work through it together. But also Sloane has been in love with him basically since they met, and they kind of have to like deal with that and grapple with that. Throughout this book, there is less cowboy vibes, and as you see, hockey vibes are more the theme in this book because Jasper is a professional hockey player. Yeah, so we do still get those Chestnut Springs cowboy vibes, the small town. I feel like this one was like really focused on the relationship and the characters and their development, and I really did appreciate that. So yeah, I love this one as well. If you've read the other Chestnut Springs series, you have to read this one too. It's non-negotiable. Okay, getting into the 4th book in the series, and that is Reckless. And you know, this book had a trope that I really am not a fan of. I'm not gonna say what the trope is because it's kind of a big spoiler, and it's like basically the whole premise of the book, but I didn't hate it in this book, which is a good sign. So I did give this a 4. We're following Theo, who is Rhett's kind of protege bull rider, and Winter, who is Summer's sister from the first book. We're kind of getting deeper into the characters' development and the problems that they're working through. It makes it seem more realistic, but we're also getting bull riding vibes again. And this one, it really is like heavily family oriented, which I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed this. Again, not as much as the other ones, but still a great read and would recommend this book. And then what I like about while you're in different characters' point of views, you still get to keep up with the rest of the family, and yeah, it's just a really good time. Oh, and I like also like the subplot of Summer and Winter's relationship in this book as well. That was super fun to follow and see their dynamics change throughout the book. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the last cowboy romance I read, which kind of wasn't a cowboy romance, but it kind of is because it is in the Chestnut Springs series. But we're following Bo, who is, I believe, the second oldest brother, and Bailey, who is a small town bartender who's from the wrong family. So the Eaton family, I've just remembered their name. That is the family that we're following. They have the ranch, and then there's Bailey's family, who is the Jansons, and they're kind of the criminals of the town, and people don't like them, and that's just is what it is. But Bo is actually a kind of like a CIA spy, MI6, like James Bond, but for Canada, because the town is set like an hour outside of Calgary, Canada. I can't remember what he called their special operatives force, but something happened at his job where he is like kind of of in retirement now. He's lost some purpose, he's had some traumatic experiences, and who helps him through it? But the small town bartender who is like 13 years younger than him, but still an adult. Everything is consensual, okay? I heard someone say, I think it was when someone commented that they heard that this book was kind of more about Bailey than it was about Bo. And do I agree with that? Maybe. I do think we get to see a lot of Bailey's character development, but I don't think it's different from the point of views we see in like the other characters' books. So every book in this series, we get both the male main character and the female character's perspective, so it makes sense. Also, I don't think we really get more of Bailey. I just wonder if we're like diving deeper into her relationship. Elsie Silver did a good job of showing how Bo worked through his things and like how Bailey was really the person to help him do that. So I think I gave this just a 4. So I did enjoy this, but not as much as I did the other ones. And it was like probably the least cowboy vibes out of all of them, because you're still in that small town and you get like the family vibes a little bit, but you're not getting the ranch vibes. I mean, it's still sprinkled in there because Bo works on the ranch when he's back home and he lives on the ranch, but it's not as prominent as the other books. But again, Elsie Silver's writing phenomenal in all of these. I will say they are spicy, so if you want closed door chapters or you don't like that, just look that up before you get into those books. But I don't think it takes away from the plot, and I don't think it overpowers the plot. I think it actually kind of adds to it, so that's just me. All right, so those were all the cowboy romances that I read in April, and you guys, I want to read Elsie Silver's first series that she came out with, because I believe that's 4 books of more cowboy romances following different characters, and I will probably be reading those this summer because these books are all perfect for summer. So yes, excited to get into that into the future. Moving on to our next category, which is YA romances, and I just had one YA romance this month, and that is Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, and I gave this book a 5 stars. I was kind of debating, is it really 5 stars? Have I thought about it that much? And I don't know if I've really thought about it or am itching to like reread it, but I did love the feeling I had when I read this book, and I just love Lynn Painter's writing. You can just count on her for a good rom-com. So yes, I'm leaving this 5 stars. We're following Liz, who is a senior in high school. She lost her mom when she was younger, and her connection to her mom is through the rom-coms they used to watch. So that's her thing. She is kind of like the girl from To All the Boys I Loved Before, and like in that she daydreams about romance, and if you know that character, Liz is very much giving her vibes. When her childhood crush moves back to town, she enlists her next door neighbor Wes to help get her crush to basically like her and want to go out with her. And we're following that story. I really loved kind of the deep dive we get into Liz's character and her past and how she grows and changes in this book. And I also love Wes because, you know, I love it when they fall first. Okay, anyways, yeah, 5 stars. Would recommend. Fun, good YA time. Lynn Painter just doesn't miss with the rom-coms. You know it's gonna be a good time when you pick up a Lynn Painter book. Getting into my last category, which is contemporary romance, and yes, I did read every single Emily Henry book this month. Some of them are rereads, some of them I hadn't read yet, and then we also have a library book, which I don't have here, and then Just for the Summer by Abby Jimenez, which came out at the beginning of the month. And you guys, wow, I just love Abby Jimenez writing. Also shout out, she from Minnesota, and also shout out because this book is set in Minnesota. Minnesota gang, we are cool. And I do have to say, yes, our summers are incredible and the winters do suck, but this book did a great job of taking you around Minnesota and doing you fun times, and I loved it so much. This was also another 5-star read for me this month. We are following Emma, who is a travel nurse, and Justin, who I think he's like a software programmer or something. We don't really get into it, but he is the encapsulation of if he wanted to, he would. If he wanted to, he would. And Justin would. He would, and he does it amazingly. So they get together over this curse that they both have, where all of their exes meet their soulmate after they break up with them. So they're like, hey, if we like date each other when we break up, we'll meet our soulmates. And we followed them. Emma lands a job in Minnesota as a travel nurse with her best friend, where Justin's from, and I really enjoyed seeing their romance take off. And I also really enjoyed the subplots we get in this book. We get some mommy issues. Justin is gaining custody of his younger siblings, so we get his mommy issues a little bit, and then we also get those subplots of the characters dealing with it. This book made me emotional. It is like a light time, but you get to see the characters grapple and deal with these things and work through them together, and it's a real good time. I highly recommend this book, and Abby Jimenez does it again. I will say, I think my one problem is how I mentioned with Elsie Silver's writing, she doesn't like tell you what the character's doing in her descriptions. Like, it's very easy to see the scene or like to picture the scene in your head, but I will say there was like a few times in this book where it was like telling you like they were here, they did this, and then I did this, and then I did this. But other than that, it really didn't bother me. So if that bothers you, that's okay. But yeah, it did not bother me because I was just so in love with this book that I kind of didn't care. So the book that I don't have with me is Sex, Lies, and Sensibility, and this is a Nikki Payne book. I read her other book, Pride and Protest, and these are Jane Austen retellings, and it was just not well written, you guys. I would not recommend it. I think the concept of it was good. It was a kind of like a small inn renovation. The girl goes to this town and she meets a guy who is Native American, and they kind of help each other out with their businesses, and I just think the concept was very good and I was very interested in the concept, but the execution and the writing it needed more rounds of edits in my opinion. So I gave it a 2 stars. I found myself halfway through the book just like skimming because I wanted to read to see what happened, you know, but it just wasn't very good writing in my opinion, and that's okay. I do have hope that she'll get better in her future books, but not sure if I'd recommend that. If that at all sounds interesting, maybe go ahead and give it a chance. But yeah, again, reading super subjective, so maybe if I think it's crap. Well, I don't think it's crap. I hate saying that. I don't want to be like mean, but I just like really didn't like it. Well, I like the concept, did not like the execution or the writing. Okay, moving on to my queen. We're finishing off strong with Emily Henry. Ooh. Okay, I obviously read all of Emily Henry's books in the month of April, and there will be a video coming out where I read all of her books in a week, and you guys are gonna read with me all week and see if I can complete these in the 1 week. I'm not gonna give you spoilers if I read them all in a week, but I will say I did read them all in April. And Emily Henry she gets it. She gets it, she delivers, she is never missing, ever. She continually slays every single time. You can just count on her to slay in every single one of her books. Yes, she is a slay master, okay? So getting into the first one I read this month, which was Book Lovers. And this was actually a reread for me, but I thoroughly enjoyed it on the second time around. I gave it 5 stars. Both the first time I read it and the second time I read it. So we're following Nora, who is a book publisher in New York, and she's giving Sandra Bullock in The Proposal vibes, okay?
He has crazy eyes.
Don't do it, Bob. Don't do it.
You poisonous bitch!
So Nora is a book agent and Charlie is a book editor, and they kind of butt heads in the prologue, and then we skip ahead in time and they run into each other in this small town that is the setting of one of Nora's author's books. And wow, this was just amazing. How many times can I say Emily Henry's books are amazing in this video? Just like the way Emily Henry describes things in this book, the way she builds her characters, the banter. Oh my gosh, I cannot mention an Emily Henry book without the banter. In this book, it had it all. It had it all, you guys. It's a must if you've read any of the other books Emily Henry has written, or if you haven't read any of her books, I would recommend them all, but this is a great one to start out with. So now that we got that one out of the way, we also have another 5-star read. Oh my gosh, are we shocked? No, this is People We Meet on Vacation, so this is another reread for me, and I gave it 5 stars both times. Again, yes. So we are following Poppy and Alex, and they have this annual summer vacation that they take. Kind of multiple different timelines. The main timeline we are on is in the present, and they're early 30s. They're kind of getting over a tiff. They haven't talked in a couple years, and Poppy's like, hey, let's go on our summer trip this year and rekindle our friendship. Okay, because something happened 2 years ago that made them basically become acquaintances and stop being besties. And so they've been going on this trip for 12 years, I want to say, every summer. And as we're going throughout the book, you get a peek at each summer vacation and kind of throughout their 20s, and you get to see them how they are when they're in college to when they're older and in their later 20s. And I loved this book, you guys. Again, has all the classic Emily Henry things, but it also has like the vacation vibes, and the lesson that we learn here is that it's not where you are, but it's who you are with that matters. And I'm just gonna leave it at that. Read this book. Okay. And then we have maybe one of the most anticipated releases of the year, dare I say. We had so many good books this year already, you guys. I'm like, oh, this is Funny Story. This just came out in April and I thoroughly enjoyed it. We're getting fake dating in this book. Daphne is a librarian and Miles is like a bartender, but he does it all kind of like the handyman who has all sorts of odd jobs. And how do they encounter each other? Both of their exes got together. Daphne was engaged to this guy. He broke it off with her to be with his best friend, and his best friend was dating Miles. So they're in a forced proximity relationship because they become roommates after this whole multiple relationship debacle explodes. And I enjoyed it. I really am struggling with the rating. I think I want to reread it and see what I rate it again. It's in like the 4 range, but I want to get the vibes and like really give it the time and attention it deserves, because again, like I said, I made a video of trying to read all of her books in a week and I feel like I rushed this a little bit and I really want to reread it again. So I don't have a rating for you guys, but I would recommend it based on the first time I read it. I really enjoyed it. There's like multiple subplots in here of friendships. Again, like there's fake dating, forced proximity, but there's also kind of dealing with absent fathers, dealing with breakups, and like watching multiple characters go through the same thing at the same time. And so yeah, it had really a lot, and I love that Emily Henry does that. It's not just like the surface level romance, but it's also all these underlying subplots that you get to see develop and you get invested in as well. So yeah, no rating, but would recommend. Okay, and then dare I say this is my favorite Emily Henry book, and this is Beach Read, and this book just holds a special place in my heart. This was another reread for me. Again, 5 stars the first time, 6 stars the second time. I feel like it deserves it. It is one of my favorite books of all time, and I just connected with the characters. You're following Gus and January, who are both writers, but they write different genres. Gus is more literary fiction, January is more romance writers, and January is dealing with the death of her father, and she finds out things about her father in the wake of that death. And Gus had a really traumatic childhood that like shapes who he is, and we get to see them interact and help each other through these things. It's like very sad and dark, and like I bawled my eyes out, but it's also very hopeful, but it's very realistic. And I love Gus, I love January. These characters, I think about them so much. It's probably unhealthy the amount I think about these fictional characters, but I don't care. Read this book, it is incredible. I am thoroughly in love with it. I also love like the town and the setting that it's in. It's in North Bear Shores, Michigan, and we get like kind of small town vibes, but I also enjoyed the side characters as well of January's best friend, Gus's aunt, and her wife. We get lots of good vibes in these books, and I love how Emily Henry, each character is so well thought out and developed. Even if they're not the main characters, she does a really great job of making characters and side characters and making you invested in the side characters as well. So yeah, this is one of my favorite books of all time. I don't know what else to say. Like, it's just that good. It is that girl. She's that girl. Yeah. Okay. We've been on a journey, you guys. It's been a minute, but I've come to the last book of the month, and possibly also one of my favorite books I read this month. And I read so many good books this month, and that is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This was her 2023 release, so it just came out last year, and I haven't read it, so this is my first time reading it, and I gave it 5 stars because Emily Henry is just that girl. How does she slay over and over again? I just don't I mean, I get it because like the girls that get it, okay? And Emily Henry gets it. This book is amazing. We are following Harriet, who is a resident in neurosurgery because she wants to be a brain surgeon program in San Francisco, but she and her besties and kind of their friend group all get together every summer at one of their friends' houses in Maine, and that's kind of her happy place, hence the name of this book. And who does she meet there but when? And it's kind of like a similar timeline to People We Meet on Vacation, where we're thrown into the story at a time when the characters aren't really on good terms, and they kind of have to work through that throughout the book, and you get their past as well scattered throughout the present timeline. But what I really love about this book is the side characters, and we get so many side characters. I love the friend group dynamics in this book, and I love seeing each relationship. It's really enjoyable. Like I said in the last book, Emily Henry does a great job developing her characters even if they're not the main character, and this book did not miss. I loved it so much. And again, this is like up there with Beach Read as one of my favorite books of all time. Is it a 6 stars? I don't think so, so I think just the 5 stars is good, but yeah. This book made me like cry so hard. It made me giggle. It made me laugh. It just had all the feelings and emotions, and I wish I could go back and read it for the first time because I read it in one sitting, you guys. Like, I read it in a day. I did not want to put this book down. I was like, I need to know what happens. I'm invested. I'm interested. I am enthralled, and I still can't stop thinking about it. So read this book if you haven't already. And if you haven't, you're missing out. So read it right now. I'll put it on the TBR because she is also that girl. All right, you guys, that about wraps up, oh my goodness, all the books I read in April. If you have read any of these 15 books, I would love to hear your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Let's have a chat about them. What did you like? Maybe what did you not like about these books if you've read them, or if you're wanting to read them, let's have a chat about them too. So again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day. If you guys could give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on my next videos. I have a lot of fun ones coming up. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.